This week on Marae, milking the potential of Māori land.
I've seen both worlds, the down and the rising of the farm.
10 years of Māori television. And celebrating the healing power of music.
It's just so magical seeing these kids responding.
E ngā mana whakahira-hira o te motu, tēnā nō rā koutou katoa.
Nau mai anō rā kia marae, ata Māria kia koutou katoa.
We know the government's pushing hard for a Ngāpuhi treaty settlement, but one farming trust says ordinary northerners can't afford to sit around and wait for settlement money to be banked.
Instead, as our reporter Yvonne Tahana found out, Kaikohes o Māpere, Rangihamama Farm Trust wants to make its economic mark now.
New ventures can spook the best of us.
Didn't look like a dairy, it looked like a race course instead.
Is that a little bit like the shareholders? They were a bit jittery about the investment, do you think?
Yeah, exactly. And I understand them as well. You know, I understand how they would feel going to something like this. Never before, once. And there had been so many things that had failed, you know. So, yeah, I understand that sort of feeling that they would have, uncertainty.
Yesterday, trustees celebrated the opening of this $5.5 million dairy conversion. It's a farm that's weathered tough times.
The previous trustees borrowed money to get out of debt, but went in further than what they should have, and to a point where something had to be done. I was part of the old brigade, you know. I don't want to leave that out because I've seen both worlds, the down and the rising of the farm.
In the next year, the Trust will produce 180,000 kilograms of milk solids. In 3 years, it'll aim for 230,000 kilograms. Beyond that, a regular dividend to 3,000 shareholders must be a farm post measure.
We have seen a bit of daylight, and to see it, you know, coming to fruit, and I think it will be also good for the shareholders. And I think it fits in with our kōrero for the farm. Hurihia, kia hurihia te whenua, hei oranga mo te iwi.
It's an iconic Ngāpuhi block, originally used by 12 hapu as their food bowl.
We have streams flowing here with the eels and the watercress, the gardens that they used to have here, kumara patches. They used to work together. The ideal thing is to be united in little things, and then those little things will grow a lot bigger for our people.
During the conversion, the Ministry of Primary Industries was a key advisor.
We see the Rangihamama dairy conversion as a model for growing rural economic development in Northland. It will act as an exemplar to surrounding Māori land of what is possible.
Māori agribusiness really is the sleeping giant in Northland. Māori own 116,000 hectares of freehold land. If that land's use was optimised, there'd be 300 million pumped into the local economy and more than 300 jobs created. For far too long, gorse has hidden Kaikohe's rich volcanic soils.
Well, it says in the good book not to covet the neighbour's property, but certainly ever since I've been here, I've just been very conscious that we're dealing with a very special block of land.
Bruce Cuthford was appointed by the Māori Land Court to help pull the trust out of debt. That debt's been paid off, and now he's a trustee.
It's been an amazing journey for me, a Pākehā who has been involved at different levels of the industry, to be in something totally new. But it's enriched my life, and it is a great way for an old fellow to fill his days, yeah, that's for sure. There's huge potential from various grades of production off the land here in Northland.
The industry was a star here once, but over decades, jobs, just like the old dairy company, ran dry.
Well, of recent years, they had been saying that Kaikohe is dying, or maybe dead already, you know. But surely this would start to lift that sort of feeling amongst the people in the area. Because I can see Kaikohe as being one of the highlights of the north, and the farming, Rangihamama, is just one project.
Dairy's been a cash cow for the economy, but there's another animal Taoko reckons the trust should model itself after.
They always say that, allow us to run like a horse. You'll never know whether it's a good horse until you have it running. That's all I ask the shareholders. Let us run and see how we go.
Te Tumu Pairoa owns a half share in the O Māpere Rangihamama conversion. Earlier I asked Jamie Tuta, the Maori trustee, to discuss his organisation's investment.
I roto I ngā rautaki me ngā mahere Pāki'i nei, e whakapono ana mātou, e whakapai ana mātou, ka eke panuku tēnei o ngā kaupapa Pāki'i nei.
Engari, hea ki ngā kōrero he wā tōna ka āhei a O Māpere Rangihamama ki te hoko i te 5 tekau ōrau, e puriti ana e koutou o te tumu Pairoa i tēnei wā. He hanga whakamārama mo tērā whakaritenga e tae ai e rātou te pēra.
No reira, I roto I ngā mahere Pāki'i nei, kua kite ake, ka tae e rātou te hoko i tō mātou wahanga, no roto mai anō I ngā aurere pūtia, ne? Mai te cash flow. E whakaro ana mātou, ana ka eke panuku tērā o ngā ia o Māpere Rangihamama.
Nō re te ahunei ko te whāinga kia tū motu hake a O Māpere Rangihamama a tōna wā?
Tā mātou mahi I roto I tēnei pakihi pāmu, ko te whakakaha, ko te tautoko I a rātou, a pūtia nei, a pūkenga nei, a rautaki nei, ana kia tutuki tēnei o ngā kaupapa. Nō reira, kua hāngai nei ngā whakaaro, kua hāngai nei ngā uaratanga o Māpere Rangihamama me te tumu Pairoa, ana I roto I te rautaki me te mahere pakihi, ana e whakapono ana mātou kaike ki tērā kua whakarite-ritengia mai nei e māua.
E hia te rahi o ngā whenua e puritia ane e koutou o te tumu Pairoa I tēnei wā nei?
He tata ki te kotahirau mano heketea te nui o ngā whenua e tiaki nāna e mātou. Hoi anō, tō mātou mahi, ko te tiaki e nei whenua, ko te whakapena e nei whenua, ko te toro atu ki te hunga nōna, ki te whakamārama I etahi huarahi e tai ai e māuatahi, te whakawhanake I henei whenua hei pāinga mo te hunga nōna.
E hoa, e 8.5 miliona tāra I roto I te tahua pūtea a te tumu Pairoa I tērā tau. I ahu mai tērā pūtea ihea, I te aha rānei?
No mua kē mai tēnei pūtea. I runga anō I ngā whakaneke hanga o te ture hau o te kaitiaki Māori te tau 2000 maiua, me ki rā ka whakakorengia te nama ki te krauna, ana ka tukuna mai tērā pūtea ki te kaitiaki Māori ki te tumu Pairoa. Nō reira, kia mārama mai rā tātou, ko te tikanga o tērā pūtea, ko te whakangao I roto I ngā kaupapa pēnei o Māpere Rangihamama, ka whakamahitia tērā pūtea hei pāinga mo ngā whenua Māori hurirau nei te motu.
Ki o whakaaro, ko te mahi pāmu te huarahi hei whai mā tātou o te iwi Māori, hei mā ngā kaipapuri whenua Māori rānei, hei oranga mō tātou I roto I ngā rā o anamata?
Me ki pēnei, koe nei tētahi huarahi, ne? Ara anō ngā huarahi kai mua I te aroaro, engari kua kite ake, kai te ahua ngoi kore ngā whenua Māori hurirau nei te motu. Ara anō ngā pūrongo kua puta mai, ana e noho noi hoana ki ngā tēpu e kai pue atu ana. Engari kua taike te wā, kia whakamahitia, kia whakawhanaketia e tātou te ao Māori I o tātou wenua, katahi, pēnei ngā mahi au wenua nei. Engari kia maumahara rā tātou, ka eke panuku e nei whakawhanaketanga mehe mea, ka haere ngātahi te whakawhanaketanga o te iwi.
Jamie Tuta, e mihi nui ana mātou o Marae ki a koe, rawe ngā kōrero I puta mai a koe I tēnei ata, nō reira tēnei te mihi e taku rangatira, kia ora rā koe.
Tēnā koe.
Ruatoki Valley is quiet now. The Tūhoi Whareho is open and the crowds have left. But last weekend, Tini Molyneux joined the Congregation of St Saviour, an Anglican church built by Ringatu followers, exactly 100 years ago, where she discovered the fascinating relationship between the two faiths.
He kotahi rautau te pau o te pere kawe i te whakapono mihingare ki te whārua o Ruatoki. Ko te whare karakia o te kaiwhakaora, engari kei te pēhea te ora o te whakapono ki konei. Ko te Umu Williams me tama nikora etahi tokorua i rūmaki hia ki te rongopai o te hāhi. I roto i ngā hokinga mahara, kua kitea nā rereke.
Ka puta atu i konei ka haere rawa koe ki te horohoro i o ringaringa. I mō tō putana hana, tō putana atu i te whenua o te whare karakia. Nā mea tāne whakairi o rātau pōtai, tangotango i wāratau hikari tika waihoa tuki i waho. I tērā wāhoki ka kuhumaina ko i roto i te whare karakia, ngā kuia katoa, ngā wahine katoa he mau, hei i. Ngā whakahaere anō i riri ngā tamariki, confirm i ngā tamariki. Ko kore pera i te wā ia mātau, te kore koe e haere putu mai ki te karakia, kare koe confirm hia.
Me te whakapono, ko nā kauhau a te minita he wero ki te huna, manawatanga ki te whakapono.
Kua ta kino hui wahona, i runga i te kōhatuna. Kōrero ai mo te kauhau a te minita. Ka rongo koe i a rātau e meana. Anō nei kei te kauhau mai aia, kia hau, nā te mea, iha paho kia hau.
I nā te mahi nui ki te whakatō i te whakapono mihinare ki tēnei whārua.
Kōrero nā hau mō mātau nei, tō mātau kuia nei tana ingoa ia hau nei. Ka ki aia, kua ku tamariki e huri hei nihingare. Ngari ko hau ka mautono hau ki taku hāhi ringatu.
Mai nā kraipiture a te kōti ka huri te tamāhene a tētahi o ngā rangatira o tūhue anumia kereru ki te whakapono mihinare i te wā e kurai nāna ki hukarere. Korotu, ka tū ki tōna taha ko tana tāne a te wharetini rangi o te aitanga māhaki. Ka noho hei minita mo te pārihi mo te ruatekau mā whātau.
Ko te whakapono ana whānau, kare noho he tino ki ko te tuku i nā mea wāhine ki te kura. Nā te mea ko tā rātau nā mahi, ka moe tāne ka whaita mariki, ka mutu.
I nā te mahi nui ki te rapu pūtea hei whakatū i tēnei whare karakia.
Ka mārua nā whānau. Ko nā rātau mahi he tope wahia. He tope wahia hei whakatere mai ki te whare tīs, hei tahuina. Ko te utu mo te rōri kotahi, 7 and 6 pence. Ka puta te karana mō tēnei whare, ka tāpiripiri a mai. Ana ka putu e rimarau pāri, ka wahia te whare nei.
Engari tērā no te wā i tau mai te ahua pūwhāwhā ki tēnei whare i te nuku o te nuinga ki te taone.
Ka nui tako mihi ki nā tamariki, no rātau te kaha i o te ai. Kua pau ke ongi te whare nei i te hu. I te huhu. Ana ka peita i atu, kua kone ki te atu.
He mahi nui ki te oko mai te whakaminenga. Engari mo te kotahi rautau aha kua te marangai i tae katoa mai ki te tautoko i te kaupapa o te rā. Ko nā tamariki o nanahi nei, kua ara ke hei pakeke hei apataki i nā tohutohu o te whakapono.
Kia whakapaingia i hua e te ao katoa, whakamoemititia tuki ai, whakanui e hoki ai.
E ara mai ai he tuatahitanga mo te kanohi moko, hei kauhau i te rongopai.
I ora tātou wā, i huri we taho o tātou kroua, e maumoko ana ki roto i te hāhi nei. Kāre noho e hea o te moko, kāre te atu e titiro nei, ki wahoi. I te tangata. E nare kia ko tana whatu manoa, ko tana aroha ki tana iwi, ki tana hapu, ki tōna whārua, a ki nai ki te iwi katoa.
E kore hoki e ngaro te wairua o te hāhi ringatu ki roto i ngā tikanga o konei.
Ka tangi mai te pere a te mihinare, ka tangi mai tā te ringatu, ka hare ki tahira rāua, ki runga i te whakapono.
Kora ki kawe ngā tapu,
So on Friday is the 10th anniversary of the Maori Channel. It was a dawn course on March the 28th, 2004 that heralded a landmark moment in Maori broadcasting, the culmination of years of political and legal struggle to safeguard te reo Māori. So here to discuss the journey so far, the Māori Channel's General Manager of Programming, Kohanga Reo. Lovely to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Morena. Surely its most outstanding achievement must be being here after 10 years when so many detractors gave it no more than 6 months at the beginning.
I think you're right there, actually, yeah. Remembering back to the days pre-launch, 2003, we were getting so much negativity in the media towards the channel that to look at what we've achieved 10 years from now, it does make you proud as the programmer to see the incredible advancements we've made as a channel.
And so you agree it is the greatest achievement?
I think so. I think personally we all take as individuals within the station probably different things. Personally, the Rugby World Cup was an enormous experience for me to be part of the initial meeting with the International Rugby Board and to be there, you know, when at the final whistle when we'd run the Rugby World Cup and there was an enormous barrier towards us being the broadcast, as you remember, and rating successfully, being such a successful production. That was personally for me a very pleasing thing. But no doubt about it, if you sat 10 years ago and said, look, in 2014 we're going to have a full immersion channel today as well as a video on demand internet channel, all the other websites connected to all the different production companies, I think you'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, but so often with success, you know, becomes more criticism, and one of them is, as you know, is that the founding principle that Te Reo was at the core of Maori TV has been, you've diverged away from that. Do you think that that is fair?
I don't think it's fair, actually. If you look at the facts, when we launched in 2004, we had one channel, Marae television channel, and we were tasked with getting at least the minimum of 51% Reo into the primetime schedule. 10 years on, we've got a channel, Maori television, minimum of 51% Reo in the prime time. We've got, as I said, 100% immersion Te Reo channel. We've also got a video on demand platform that offers an immense level of programming. So you feel that Māori TV is actually serving that purpose? I mean, you mentioned ratings before. How important is that to Māori TV? I think ratings are a component because I think you have to use... We're not a commercially driven broadcaster. So we are a public broadcaster in the sense that the reo and the culture is at the forefront of what we're trying to do.
So
but ratings do give you...
Are you trying to serve Māori or not attract Māori?
It's a balancing act. I think it's a balancing act. I think different programming, we've got festival, documentaries and movies, do very well for the non-Māori audience as well. But if you look at the thrust of our total package, it really is very Māori-centric and Māori-focused. It
is a tricky area to get into because then it raises that idea of whether or not Māori TV is becoming Pākehā-fied, which is a bit of a catchword that's around at the moment. Certainly the Kohanga Reo story has sort of lent more weight to that accusation, I guess. And do you think that's a fair one? And do you think that Māori TV needs to be more focused on the positive than the negative stories?
I think we are focused on the positive. If you look at the main driver, I think one of the undercurrents really of getting ourselves our own television channel was that the amount of negativity towards the Māori image in mainstream. And even last year there was academic studies that showed in studying the mainstream channels that the inordinate amount of negativity attached to when you saw a Māori person in mainstream, particularly in prime time. We know that one of the biggest drivers and the number one reason that people say they come and watch Maori TV is to see a positive affirmation of the Maori culture. And so we know that. So obviously it's difficult. How do you balance that if you want to investigate the darker sides of things and the troublesome? And
I think that's a question we're going to be looking more and more at as the year goes on, particularly with an election coming up. We have to leave it there, but thank you so much for your time. Hau nui Royal.
Kia ora.
Righty-ho, we have a special Willie Jackson session this morning because the Fawn is joined by the Rose, Yvonne Tahana, one of our reporters. Yvonne, we had the Kohanga Reo report come out this week. 24 hours after the release of the report, the SFO was called in to investigate. What's the latest on this saga?
Well, it was actually 12 hours later that the trustee, the unnamed trustee, sent this email, which has subsequently been sent on to the SFO. The question has been all week, who was that person? And we can say that 3 people in Wellington, credible sources have told us that Tony Waho, a trustee on the Kohanga Reo National Trust, was indeed the person that sent that email through to Hekia Parata's office. Why is this so important? You know, he's a trustee who's broken ranks, and I think that is very interesting, speaking to the dynamics of the trust at this time. We tried to go to the trust for comment yesterday. They had a meeting at the Auckland Airport, motel. We were not allowed on the premises of that motel. So we were unable to talk to them. We put in calls to Derek Fox. He hung up on us. We put in calls to different trustees. We called Tony Wahol this morning, left messages. We haven't heard from them.
So Tony Wahol is the leak, according to the allegations here at the moment. This is kind of, what would be his agenda, Willie? What's his agenda for leaking this information to
He probably wants to be the chairman of the trust. In fact, I reckon...
But he's cutting everybody else's throat.
Well, that's what you have to do if you want to become the chair. You know, he probably wants to take out the old lady, Whaeritana. So, look, he's done some great work out there, Tony. Maybe he's had enough. Maybe he wants more accountability. This might be what's driving him. But I have absolutely no doubt. In fact, I can confirm those people that you've talked to have talked to a number of people. So Tony's doing it. There's a power struggle in that trust, no doubt about that. And some of them probably want the old lady out, who's a matriarch, you know, being a fantastic example for our people. Just caught out a bit here, though, because there's a lot of challenges in terms of the processes, how they roll things out.
Shane Jones this week has called for a new board. But he wants the luminaries to remain where they are. Eritana, Wharehuia, Timoti, he wants them to remain there in some kind of custodial role. Is that sort of where you think they should be?
I don't think Jones is far off the mark. I think they need to bring some new blood in. You can't have lifetime trustees. You can't sort of say, I'm the chairman for life. You know, it's like, we know you're the chairman for life of your local kohanga, right? Well, you can't do that. So, you know, and you've got a job forever and a day. There should be some new blood in there because there's some angst out there. But I want to say there's not huge misappropriation going on in the kohanga, but the processes are wrong. The commercial arm they're arguing is on its own, but there's no doubt it's interlinked with the trust.
But this is obviously going to affect their Treaty of Waitangi claim too, because they wanted autonomy, but the government's not going to give them autonomy with all this.
Well, they may do if they get a clearance from the SFO. So the Minister, Hekia Parata's done the right thing. She couldn't do anything else, but they have to do the right thing.
And Hekia is furious with the board. That's
you can understand that. But as you know, Eritana, Timoti Karetu, Wharehuia Milroy, these people are icons in terms of Māoridom, but they need a bit of a hurry up. They need people like yourself and others on that board, great practitioners in the community. The board needs to be more reflective of Te Ao Māori, and it's not at the moment. And as well as that, they can't have 12 or 14 million in the bank, and you've got pōhara kohangas out there breaking down, you know, windows falling apart and that type of thing. That seems to be the main claim. But we've got to get this right. We're not talking South Canterbury finance here, Yvonne. You know, we're talking about a bit of misappropriation process, and I just hope that they're going to get it right over the weekend.
Well, it sounds like Tony Wahol thinks he's the man who's going to put it right.
Well, he's a traitor, probably, according to some of them.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Yvonne. Magnificent.
I think he's my relation too.
He probably is. Everybody is. Everybody is.
All right, the Raukatore Music Therapy Centre has provided support for children and adults with a wide range of special needs. This year, the centre celebrates a musical high, its 10th birthday, another 10th birthday. Ngā Huia Wade watched them blow out the candles.
Te pūtorina a Raukataure Iri piri
Mummy and Daddy's special girl.
Kairoto ko te puhi o te tangi.
Who inspired the Raukataure Music Therapy Centre?
She makes people think about themselves and about what they can contribute to the world. You know, she's got so many challenges that it's difficult to really match up. You know, if you're having a bad hair day, it sort of pales into insignificance. But everything is relative, and she just keeps us very grounded and very real about life. When we first experienced music therapy in the UK, it was like a light switch came on, and we could tell immediately that there was something really special that goes on with the connection to music. And Hina Raukatore's face just lit up.
So the beauty of an instrument like the wind chimes is that someone like Hine Raukatore, who has limited movement and limited control over her movements, can make a really big arm movement and make a big sound. Or she can make smaller movements with her fingers and still get a really satisfying sound out of this instrument.
511 instruments, increasing in volume daily.
This is an instrument that I collected at the weekend from a wonderful lady who donated it. And I used it in a session this morning with a young woman who likes to tell stories. She's really into fantasy. And so she was really taken by the pictures of the dragons and the fish on the gong, and she decided that it would be an instrument to use to mark the beginning and the end of her story.
Magic moments. First words we've had here, we've had steps here, we've had just sheer joy on a child's face when they've been able to stand up for the first time, and so you can imagine that everybody gets emotional, you know, mums, dads, caregivers, staff.
More than 1,000 clients since it started.
It's just so magical seeing these kids responding to music therapy, how they're affected by music and how it helps them to express themselves and connect with other people. It's beautiful.
Happy birthday, Rokatori. Happy birthday to you.
We don't get any money from the government at all, and we need $750,000 a year to keep the centre running. Tonight's our birthday celebration, and part of that will be raising funds for the centre.
My heart skips a beat every time that...
It's a great thing to have the support of the music industry. That's the power of music.
I might seem kind of shy, but believe me, my feelings...
I was just really fearful for her future and what it held for her. I don't know if you ever really get over it in terms of the grieving process finishing, because you're still grieving for the loss of potential, life potential. She gives us so much, and we use that to see the world in a different way.
Oh man, it's made me quite emotional. Well, thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for Wakahuia, who explore the wonderful life of 79-year-old Mona Emery.
Nō reira, raraua tura koutou ki ngā manaakitanga o te rā, kei mua i te aroaro.